Dumbo, the damn elephant that flew, big ass ears.
When I think of the risks here, my mind goes to misinformation, generation of deep fakes, use of AI systems to manipulate people or produce propaganda or just do anything deceptive. I can speak a little bit about some of the things we're doing. We train our model with this method called constitutional AI, where you can lay out explicit principles. It doesn't mean the model will follow the principles, but there are terms in our constitution, which is publicly available, that tells the model not to generate misinformation. The same is true in our business terms of use. One of the commitments with the White House was to start to watermark content, particularly in the audio and visual domain. I think that's very helpful, but would also benefit from watermarking. Gives you the technical capability to to detect that something is AI generated, but requiring it on the side of the law to be labeled, I think, would be something that would be very helpful and timely.
Thank you, Ms. Benji.
I agree with all of that. I will add a few things. One concern I have is that even if companies use watermarking, and especially because there's now several open source versions to train LLMs or use them, including model weights that have been made available to the global community. We also need to understand how things can go wrong on that front. In other words, people are not all going to obey that law. And one important thing I'm concerned about is one can take a pre-trained model, say by a company that made it public, and then without huge computing resources, so not the 100 million cost that it takes to train them, but something very cheap, can tune these systems to a particular task, which could be to play the game of being a troll, for example. There's plenty of examples of that to train them on, or other examples in generating deep fakes in a way that might be more powerful than what we've seen up to now. So I don't know how to fix this, but I want to bring that to the attention of this committee.
Thank you. Well,
same to you, Angel. Same to you. Hope you have a blessed and humble day, and I hope everything goes well. Thank you for popping up and showing the Shorty support. It's always, it's always fun having you on the panel, y'all. Listen, man, Angel is somebody that's very funny. Y'all haven't subbed up to Angel, go sub up to her. Her and Perpetual, yo, they are real freaking funny, yo. I love them, both of them. Like, both great sisters.
On that point and on both of the excellent points that you both have raised, I would invite fixes.
Well, I mean, one immediate fix is to avoid releasing more of these pre-trained large models. That's the thing that governments can do, because right now, very few companies, including the 7 you brought last week, can do that. And so that's a place where government can act.
Professor Russell?
Yeah, I would certainly like to support the remarks of the other two witnesses. And I would say my major concern with respect to elections would be disinformation, and particularly external influence campaigns, because with these systems, we can present to the system a great deal of information about an individual, everything they've ever written or published on Twitter or Facebook, their social media presence, their floor speeches. External influence campaigns, because with these systems, we can present to the system a great deal of information about an individual, everything they've ever written or published on Twitter or Facebook, their social media presence, their floor speeches, and train the system and ask it to generate a disinformation campaign, particularly for that person.
Oh, snap. So, yeah. See, I'm not tripping. Yeah. Y'all spying on us now, huh? What's crazy is that we're basically the test. Have y'all peeped it yet? We the guinea pigs.
And then we can do that for 1 million people before lunch. And that has a far greater effect than the sort of spamming and broadcasting of false information that isn't tailored to the individual. I think labeling is important. For text, it's going to be very difficult to tell whether a short piece of text is machine generated if someone doesn't want you to know that it's machine generated. I think an important proposal from the Global Partnership on AI.
Once again, shout out to young Riaz for bringing that information out before he even said it, because I think he said it on part 2 or part 3. He said it on one of the parts, but I know he said it.
Is actually for a kind of an escrow, an encrypted storage, where every output from a model is stored in an encrypted form, enabling, for example, a platform to check whether a piece of text that's uploaded is actually machine generated by testing it against the escrow storage without revealing private information, etc. So that can be done. Another problem we face is that there are many, many extremely well-intended efforts to create standards around labeling and how platforms should respond to labels in terms of what should be posted, and media organizations like the BBC, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, et cetera. There are dozens of these coalitions. The effort is very fragmented, and there are as many standards as there are coalitions. I think it really needs national and probably international leadership to bring these together to have pretty much a unified approach and standards that all organizations can sign up to. And thirdly, I think there's a lot of experience in other spheres, such as in the equity markets, in real estate, in insurance business, where truth is absolutely essential. If you take the equity markets, if companies can make up their quarterly figures, then the equity markets collapse. And so we've developed this whole regulated third-party structure of accountants, audits, so that the information is reasonably trustworthy. In real estate, we have title registries, we have notaries, all kinds of stuff to make it work. We don't really have that structure in the public information sphere. And we see, again, it's very fragmented. There's factcheck.org, there's Snopes, there's, I suppose Elon Musk is going to have his Truth GPT and so on. Again, this is something that I think governments can help licensing and standards for how those should function. And again, what platforms do with the information that the third-party institutions supply to enable users to have access to high-quality information streams. So I think there's quite a lot we can do, but it's pretty urgent.
Thank you. I think all of these points argue very, very powerfully against fragmentation, for some kind of single entity that would establish oversight standards, enforcement of rules, because as you say, malign actors can not only eliminate quarterly reporting, they can also make up numbers for corporations that can disastrously impact the stock of the corporation.
If I just might add one point, we're absolutely not talking about a ministry of truth. In some sense, it's similar to what happens in the courts. The courts have standards for finding out what the truth is, but they don't say what the truth is. And
that's interesting, ain't it?
We need.
But protecting our election system has to be a priority. I think all of you are.
He just said protecting our election system has to be a priority.
Very, very emphatically and cogently making that point.
Yeah, I would like to add one suggestion, which may sound drastic, but isn't, if you look at other fields like banking, in order to reduce the chances that AI systems will massively influence voters through social media, one thing that should have been done a long time ago is that social media accounts should be restricted to actual human beings that have identified themselves, ideally in person,
Hmm.
right? And
Can you break it
right
down for me?
now, social media companies are spending a lot of money to figure out whether an account is legitimate or not. They will not by themselves force these kinds of regulations because it's going to create friction to recruit more users. But if the government says everyone needs to do it, they'll be happy. Well, I'm not them, but that's what I would if I were them.
Thank you. Senator Hawley.
Let's start, if we could, by talking about who controls this technology currently and who's developing it. Mr. Amade, if I could just start with
Right. Great question. Great question. But allegedly, it was Tesla who came up with the idea. So let's see.
you. Just help me understand some of the structure of your company, of Anthropic. Google owns a significant stake in your company, doesn't it?
Yes, Google was an investor in Anthropic. They don't control any board seat.
So they're naming investor. So Google's an investor on these. Google's part in this is being an investor in the AI artificial intelligence project.
But yes, Google is an investor in Anthropic.
Give us a sense of what are we talking about? What kind of stake are we talking about?
I don't remember exactly. Couldn't give it to you exactly.
Damn.
I suspect it's low double digits, but would need to follow up on this.
Well, the press has reported it at 300 million.
Is he, am I tripping, or is he nervous, or is he stuttering because he has a condition? Because if he has a condition, listen, I can't. But are you nervous right now?
Dollars in investment with at least a 10% stake in the company. Does that sound broadly correct?
That sounds broadly correct.
I think he's
a pretty big
nervous.
stake. Let's talk about OpenAI, where you used to work, right?
Yes.
OpenAI, it's been reported, has a very significant chunk of funding that comes from another massive technology company, Microsoft. It's been reported in the press that this was one of the reasons that you left the company. You were concerned about this. I'll let you can speak to that if you want to. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But the stake that I believe Microsoft is reported to have in OpenAI approaches 49%. So it's not controlling, but it's awfully close. Tell me this: when the Google's stake in your company occurred, the Financial Times broke the story on this, but reported that the transaction wasn't publicized when it actually happened. Why was that? Do you know?
I couldn't speak to the decisions made by Google here. I do want to make one point, which is our relationship with Google at the present time. It's primarily focused on hardware. So in order to train these models, you need to purchase chips. And this investment came with commitment to spend on the cloud. And our relationship with Google has been primarily focused on hardware, hasn't primarily been commercial or involved with governance.
So there's no plans to integrate your Claude, your equivalent of ChatGPT. There's no plans to integrate that with Google Search, for example.
That's not occurring at the present time.
Well, I know it's not occurring, but are there plans to do it? I guess is my question.
Yeah, he seems very nervous to answer these questions. So is it?
I mean, I can't speak to what I can't speak to what the possibilities are for the future, but that's not something that's occurring at the present.
Don't you think that would be frightening? I mean, just to come back to something Professor Russell said a moment ago, he talked about the ability in the election context of AI to fed in the information from, let's say, one political figure, everything about that person, the ability to come up with a very convincing misinformation campaign. Now, imagine if that technology also, if the same large language model, for example, also had the information, the voter files, millions of voters, and knew exactly what would capture those voters' attention, what would hold it, what arguments they found most persuasive, the ability to weaponize misinformation and to target it toward particular voters would be exceptionally powerful, right? Now, search is all about getting and keeping users' attention. That's how Google makes money. I'm
Facts.
just imagining your technology, a generative AI, aligned and integrated and folded into search, the power that that would give Google to get users' attention, keep their attention, push information to them. It'd be extraordinary, wouldn't it?
Yes. So, I mean,
Let me break it down for a lot of people. For those of y'all that don't know or trying to figure out what he's trying to say, for those of y'all that don't know, Google does analytics, right? I'm hoping I'm saying it right, right? Basically, like whatever you search the most on your phone, it could be WWF, it could be Dave's Loaf, it could be a novella, it could be the news. So if they notice that this is what you're looking for the most, right? They're gonna keep pushing and pushing just the same type. Facebook does it, Instagram does it, TikTok does it, YouTube does it. Same thing. It's like whatever you search the most is that type of information, that type of videos, that type of whatever is going to keep pushing your way. So it's kind of like an algorithm thing. I don't know how to put it into words. So I'm hoping that somebody in the near future could, react to this and kind of break it down, because he's not lying on what he's saying about Google. Whatever you search the most for on Google, it is what it will, how can I say it? Recommend the most back. It's crazy, but it's true.
I think, Senator, I think these are very important issues, and I want to raise a few points on here. One is some of the things I said in response to Senator Blumenthal's questioning, which is on misinformation. So we put terms in Claude's Constitution that tell it not to generate misinformation or political bias in any direction. I again want to emphasize over and over again that these methods are not yet perfect, and the science of producing this is not exact yet. But this is something we work on. I think you're also getting at some important privacy issues here about personal information, and this is an area where also in our Constitution we discourage our models from producing personal information. We don't train on publicly available information. So it's
Stop saying train. You mean program, because you don't train a robot. You train a person to go to work. You train a dog to do tricks, to lay down, to do this. You don't train a robot. You program them. They don't have a brain to get brainwashed. So you're programming something into their data, into their motherboard. Stop saying train. I keep saying, that shit me off when they keep saying it, because you're not training a dog. Y'all programming a robot.
It's very core to our mission, to produce models that at least try not to have these problems.
Well, you say that you tell the model not to produce misinformation. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but do you tell it not to help massive companies make a profit?
I forgot a shirt.
This would be Google's
Shirt.
interest, right above all profits. The whole reason they want to get users' attention and then keep users' attention and keep us searching and scrolling is so that they can push products to us and make lots and lots of money, which they do.
Facts.
It seems to me that your technology melded with theirs could make them an enormous sum of money. That would be great for them. Would it be so good for the American consumer?
Again, I can't speak to I can't speak to the decisions made by a different company like Google, but we are doing the best we can to make our systems ethical. When in terms of how do we tell our model not to do things, there's a training process where we train the model in a loop to tell it for some given output, is your response in line with these principles? And over the last 6 months since we've developed this method of constitutional AI, we've gotten better and better at getting the model to be in line with what the Constitution says. Again, I would still say it's not perfect, but we very much focus on the safety of the model so that it doesn't do the things that you're concerned about, Senator.
Well,
so if it's not perfect, why are you even trying to put it out in the market? Why are you even trying to bring it out to the world? Like there a lot of us as civilians, us as humans, we should be concerned, especially knowing that this is the type of race. Well, maybe not say race. This is the type of thing that can go rogue and try to take over. They're already planning to replace people in their, they're already planning to replace mankind. And I'm not saying us as humans, probably they're going to get there. What I'm trying to say is they're trying to replace people's jobs. Like if you work at an Amazon, if you work at a gas station, if you work at, at a store, at a supermarket or shit like that, they're trying to make it as already AI, everything artificial intelligence, because they work faster than humans. But it's not going to work out. At the end of the day, a human still has to control the robot. I'm trying to figure out how y'all gonna make y'all haven't even gotten it to perfection. But what's crazy, it's already here. Everybody's been asleep. We can't stop that. The question is, right? The question is, should we wait and watch how this plays? Or should we stick together, come together, and take action, or let the government handle this? That's the biggest question.
Listen, I think this has surfaced an important point, and I just want to underscore this because I think it's important. All this, I appreciate that you want your models to be ethical and so forth. That's great, but I would just suggest that that is in the eye of the beholder, and the talk of what is ethical or what is appropriate is going to really vary significantly, determined by or depending on who controls the technology. So I'm sure that Google or Microsoft, using these generative models, linking it up with their ad-based models, would say, oh, it's perfectly ethical for us to try and get the attention of as many consumers as possible by any means possible and to hold it as long as possible. And they would say, there's no problem with that. That's not misinformation. That's business. Now, would that be good for American consumers? I doubt it. Would that be respectful of American consumers' privacy and their integrity? Would it prevent them, or would it protect them rather from manipulation? I doubt it. I mean, so I think we've got to give some serious thought here to who controls this technology and how they are using it. And this is, I appreciate all that you're doing. I appreciate your commitments. I think that's great. I just want to underline, this is a very serious structural issue here that we're going to have to think hard about, and the control of this technology by just a handful of companies and governments is a huge, huge problem. Hopefully we can come back to this. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Senator Hawley. Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you very much. So I chair the Rules Committee, and we're working on a number of pieces of legislation, and I've really appreciated working with Senator Hawley on some of this. But one bill is, watermarks and making sure that
All right, guys. For anybody that comes in, people that catching the replay can't do it. But so anybody that does come in, I left the poll. Anybody in the chat, I left a whole new poll. Should we wait should we wait this out and see what happens? Should we let the government handle it, or should we take action? What do y'all think we should do? Leave y'all polls right there, and the Shorty will check them out in a minute, and then leave them. When she ends it, it will pop up on the chat, and y'all will see how many voted for what. But me, I think we should take action. I don't know what y'all think, but if y'all want to help a Shorty out, leave your comments. Let a Shorty know what y'all think and how y'all feel. Should we take action? Should we wait and see what happens, or should we let the government handle it? Let's talk about it. What y'all think? Leave your comments down below.
election materials say produced by AI, but I don't think that's enough when you look at the fact that someone's going to watch a fake Joe Biden or a fake Donald Trump or a fake Elizabeth Warren. All of this has really happened, and then not know who the person is and not know.
Blessings, Uncle L. Blessings.
If it's really them, and it's not going to help just at the very end. It might for some things, but to just say at the end, oh, by the way, that was produced by AI. I hope you saw our little mark at the end that says that. So could you address that, Professor Russell? How within the clear confines of the Constitution for things like satire, we're going to have to do more than just watermarks.
I do want to be careful not to veer into, once again, the sort of Ministry of Truth idea. But I think clear labeling, I mean, if you look at what happened with credit cards, for example, it used to be that credit cards came with 14 pages of tiny, tiny print. And that allowed companies to rip off the consumer all the time. And eventually Congress said, no, there's got to be disclosure. You've got to say, this is the interest rate, this is the grace period, this is the late fee, and a couple of other things. That has to be in big print on the front of the envelope or on the front page. There are very strict rules about how you direct market credit cards and other lending products. And that's been enormously beneficial because it actually allows competition on those prime.
That's an interesting but great comparison, but kind of interesting. Why would he bring the credit cards up? But for those of y'all that didn't know a lot about this, y'all learning. But I'm kind of curious. I'm about to start searching up why would he compare the two though.
Primary features of the product.
As you can't really compare a credit card to someone who's telling the United States of America that there's some kind of a nuclear explosion when there isn't.
You see, listen, man. I think we was already here when we paused it the last time, but I took it back, and it's great that I'm doing this because I'm actually catching on to things that I've missed. That's crazy. I think this is where we had paused it because I remember the lady talking. Well, I don't know, but yeah, there was no other lady talking in the beginning. So listen, I forgot where we paused it the last time. All I know is that I pushed it back all the way. But this is crazy though, yo. This right here has me like, what the fuck?
But
why would he though? Like, y'all see how I said it's an interesting, comparison. But why would he compare it to a credit card?
But the point being, we can mandate much clearer labeling than just a little thing in the corner at the end of the 90-second piece, right? We could say, for example, there's got to be a big red frame around the outside of the image when it's a machine-generated image.
Okay, I'm just gonna, Professor Benjia, what do you think?
Yeah, skip that nigga.
My view on this is
he was tripping. One hell of a comparison, though. Interesting.
We should be very careful with any kind of use of AI for political purposes, political advertising, whether it's done officially through some agency that does advertising or in a more direct way.
But it might not be actual advertising. It's just put out for circulation. That's always what we've confronted because the Federal Election Commission, while deadlocking on this, has asked for authority, including the Republican appointed members, to do more. But go ahead.
In many countries, any kind of advertising, which would include disseminating such videos, is not allowed for some period before the election to try to minimize the potential effect of these things.
Right. Could I just, Mr. Amode, one significant concern, I'm just switching gears here because I talked to some people in the banking community about this, small banks, is that they are really worried they're going to see AI used to scam people. Pretending to be your mom's voice or your more likely granddaughter's voice.
Yo, didn't I say this on part 5? Like, what would not part 5, part 4, and part 3? Like, imagine somebody using your voice to imitate you. Imagine, like, if they already got the robots that already, skin, which they probably do because they already got the sex robots that are already, they look like freaking humans. Like, they look real, feel real, allegedly. And I say allegedly because I haven't seen one. I haven't touched one. Like, all I've seen is videos. But people around the world have gone crazy for them little sex robots. But to each his own. I guess that's what they like. But me, listen, I'm good with a real person. I want a real person next to me, with a real brain, a real heart that beats, blood floating through their veins, like not somebody that's been programmed to say something I want them to say. For all that, I might as well have a yes man. They exist.
Actually getting that voice right, making a call for money. How can Congress ensure that companies that create AI platforms can not be used for those deceptive platforms? What kind of rules should we put in place so that doesn't happen?
Yes, Senator. So I think these questions about deception and scams are probably closely related to these questions about misinformation, right? They're a little bit two sides of the same coin. So I think on the misinformation, I wanted to kind of clarify, there's technical measures and there's policy measures. So, watermarking is a technical measure. Watermarking makes it possible to take the output of an AI system, run it through some automated process that will then return an answer that it was generated by AI or not generated by AI. That's important, and we're working on that, and others are working on that. But I think we also need policy measures. So going back to what the other two witnesses said, focusing on a requirement to label AI systems is not the same as a requirement to watermark them. One is for the designer of the AI system to embed something. The other is for wherever the AI system ends up.
Yep.
In the end, for someone to be
Facts on top of freaking facts. Like, it's crazy. I think the bull is with it. Like, he wants this shit to happen. He's one of them little crazy, like them crazy scientists that want to take over the world, and then they want to cover the moon and the sun and all that. The other bull, the old head, I think he's with it, yo. Let's end the world.
be required to label
What
it.
the fuck?
So I think we need both, and probably this Congress can do more on the second thing, and the companies and researchers can do more on the first thing.
Okay, and so what are you talking about? The scams where the granddaughter calls in, the grandma goes out and takes all her money out. We're just gonna let that happen, or
well, I mean, certainly,
like
certainly, it's already illegal to do that. I can think of a number of.
So you still not answering the question. You with it? Like, what the? They want to take this shit further than what they're making us think. So I'm glad she's on point.
Authorities that we use to strengthen that for AI in particular. I think that's kind of up to the Senate. And
See, I knew he was nervous earlier with the question that the bull asked him. You're not nervous now. You talking real good. Yo, something is up. Like, they really up to something. Shout out to the meal ticket. Shout out to Young Riaz. Because their opinions yesterday were on point. Their perspectives, because it's crazy. Like, they said what they said before these people said it, and we watched the whole video.
The Congress to figure out what the best measure is, but certainly I'd be in favor of strengthened protections there.
Well, I hope so. About half of the states have laws that give individuals control over the use of their name, image.
Blessings, Letitia. Blessings. How you doing?
And voice, but in the other half of the country, someone who was harmed by a fake recording purporting to be them has little recourse. Senator Coons and Tillis just did a hearing on this. Would you support a federal law, Mr. Bengio, that gives individuals control over the use of their name, image, and voice?
Certainly, but I would go further.
He said, certainly. Yo, this nigga tripping. There's going to be a lot of consequences behind this shit. There's going to be World War V. We just skipped 4 because we're in the middle of 3.
If you think about counterfeiting money, the criminal penalties are very high, and that deters a lot of people. And when it comes to counterfeiting humans, it should be at least at the same level.
Okay. One last thing I wanted to ask about here is just the ability of researchers to be able to figure out what is going on. And there's a bill that a number of us are supporting, including Senator Blumenthal, that allows for researchers the transparency that we need. And including Senator Cassidy, Cornyn, Coons, and Romney. It's called the Platform Accountability and Transparency Act to require social media companies to share data with researchers so we can try to figure out what's happening with the algorithms and the like. Dr. Russell, why is researcher access to social media platform data so important for regulating AI?
So our experience actually involved 3 years of negotiating an agreement with one of the large platforms, only to be told at the end that actually they didn't want to pursue this collaborative agreement after all.
We don't really have 3 years to spare on AI, it sounds like. So
no, we don't.
Continue.
Yes. And I then discussed this with the director of the digital division of OECD, And he said I was about the 10th person who had told him the same story. So it seems there's a modus operandi of appearing to be open to collaborations with researchers only to terminate that collaboration right before it actually begins. There have been claims that they have provided open data sets to researchers to allow this type of research, but I've talked to those researchers and it hasn't happened.
And why is it so important to have it to put in place these regulations? We know we can't wait for you to get all the data, obviously, and we can't let it take 3 years, but putting in place clear mandates that data be shared, why is that helpful?
Because the effects of, for example, the social media recommender systems are they correlated across hundreds of millions of people. So those systems can shift public opinion in ways that are not even necessarily deliberate. They're probably not deliberate, but they can be massive and polarizing. Unless we have access to the data, which the companies internally certainly do. And I think the Facebook revelations from a few years ago suggested that they are totally aware of what's happening, but that information is not available to governments and researchers. And I think, in a democracy, we have a right to know if our democracy is being subverted by an algorithm. And that seems absolutely crucial.
All right. You want to add one more thing?
Yes. Trying to respond to your question from another angle, why researchers? I would say academic researchers, not all of them, but many of them don't have any commercial ties. They have a reputation to keep in order to continue their career. So they're not perfect, but I think it's a very good yardstick to judge that something.
Except for Professor Russell.
Hey.
Okay, very good. Do you agree with it too, Ben?
Yes, I just wanted to say I think transparency is important even as a broader issue. A number of our research efforts go into looking inside to see what happens inside AI systems, why they make the decisions that they make.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to turn over to my colleagues who've been patiently waiting. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll
So have you figured it out? Did you find out why they go rogue? Because I don't think none of us are willing to, sit here and do a replay or sit here and live what the movie I, Robot is about.
circle back to the black box algorithms, which is a major topic of interest. Senator Blackburn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. Mr. Amadei, I think you got a little aggravated trying to answer Senator Hawley's question about something you may create that you think of as an ethical.
That's because she put pressure. He got nervous. You see, body language speaks 1,000 words. Body language, body behavior speaks a lot. Something that these artificial intelligence motherfuckers cannot figure out. They cannot determine it. They can't see. They can't understand if you're sad, if you're, happy, if you're crying because, your heart got, torn. And I'm not going to say broken because the heart is a muscle. So, it's crazy.
Ethical use. But let me tell you why this bothers us, the unethical use. Senator Blumenthal and I have worked together for nearly 4 years on looking at social media and the harms that have happened to our nation's youth. And hopefully this week, our Kids Online Safety Act comes out of committee. It wasn't intended. Social media wasn't intended. The intent was not to harm children, cause mental health crisis, put children in touch with drug dealers and pedophiles. But we have heard story after story and have uncovered instance after instance where the technology would.
Yeah, see, shout out to all those out here exposing them groomers, them pedophiles, them predators. As y'all can see, look, listen, man, we're being heard. Shout out to everybody exposing the predators, the groomers, the pedophiles, all of them. The R word people, shout out to all of them. Don't stop. Don't ever stop. Don't give up. Don't change. Because listen, one way or another, as time goes by, we will be heard. So for all those out here with positive podcasts, speaking on the stuff that's going on around the world and stuff like that, those that get their channels taken down and they keep fighting and they make another channel. Yo, shout out to all of y'all, because y'all not doing this in vain. And I keep saying it. We're not where we want to be, where we have to be. Things happen for a reason. See, our bodies are not ours. We belong to God. I grew up hearing that. We belong to God.
Was used in a way that nobody ever thought it was. And now we're trying to clean it up because we've not put the right guardrails in place. So as we look at AI, the guardrails are very important. And Professor Russell, I want to come to you because the US is behind the
Yo, yeah, I saw Megan. That shit was crazy. But that right there, Megan shows you, like it shows you about the Terminator, the Matrix, and all that. Why they were fighting and all that. Like it shows you. Megan only shows you that what Sophia Stewart said about the Terminator. Like if we would have came together before, we could have did something. If we talk about our ancestors so much that what I think is crazy is that we didn't learn. We haven't figured out why they sacrificed themselves. They did what they did, right? So that we could learn something. But we're stuck dwelling on a past that is not ours. They sacrificed their lives, right? And we're still sitting here making the same mistake time after time after time when they made a pathway for us. They made a pathway for us. Like there's a lot of people that are woke. One like Sophia Stewart, and she's not wrong. Like if you sit here and you do your research, you could actually sit here and predict the future yourself and see what's going to happen. Listen, call me crazy, talk shit about me, say whatever you want. But at the end of the day, I'm confident because I know my history, I know my roots. In order for me to understand my present and understand the future that's coming, I had to understand the past. And not just my past, my ancestors' past. Understand why we're here and how we got here. And that takes time. That takes a lot of reading. That takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of listening. It takes a lot of shutting the fuck up and opening your ears up and listening. For those of y'all out there that like over talking and, being disrespectful and doing this and doing that, that's what it takes. I'm only 33 and about to be 34 on August 19th. A lot of people be saying, yo, you only that? Like, how the, you, listen, I may have an old soul like they say. I may be this, I may be that. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I am the way I am. I could have chosen to go different routes, but I decided to take the route that led me to where I'm at today. Because trust me and believe me, guys, y'all wouldn't be hearing me or listening to me today if I would have decided to take the routes that I would have first thought about. But I got blessed. I've been blessed. And at the beginning, I didn't know it. But it took a lot of people around me to open my eyes up from a teenager to now. And it took for me to give birth to my daughter, to sit my ass down, because I knew how to give love, but I wasn't disciplined. And I didn't know how to receive it either. I didn't know how to accept it. I didn't start accepting certain people into my life until I gave birth to that little girl. Because what's crazy is I never knew the purest version of me until I started walking next to me. That's crazy because my daughter is the purest version of me. And we never know who we really are until we see them and we look into their eyes. Watching them grow up, we see who we really are and what our purpose really was, but we didn't understand it because we wasn't guided right. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm tripping. Hey, it is what it is, right? As people say. But to me, you want to know why I don't give up? Because of them, their friends. And even if it costs me my last breath, I know that I did my best to educate my kids and teach them morals and respect. And by the time they get older, they'll know how to deal with this cruel ass life, this cold ass world we was born into, that we was bought into. Because this is what it is. We're walking in hell. It's crazy how chapters of the Bible are coming into reality right now. How certain movies, it's like we're living through it. A lot of y'all wanted to feel and experience what it was like to feel, to be in the Matrix, to be a part of the Terminator, to feel what it was like to, be in the movie The Militia Man and all that, iRobot, RoboCop, and all that shit, right? We're in it. We're living it. We're experiencing it. It's kind of weird, right? You know what I call it? We're traveling back in time. It's like Back to the Future. Weird. But those of you that do pick up a book and read, those of you that, do your research, will understand where I'm coming from. I can't break it down more than what I just did. I'm serious. I really can't. I can't dumbify it more than what I just did. And that's not bashing on nobody or bringing anybody down. It's just that sometimes we can't sugarcoat shit. Because sugarcoating shit is going to get people more confused than what they already is. There's no sugarcoating this. We're in it. Stop waiting for it. Jetsons is here. You know what we are? We're the Flintstones. The Jetsons is here. They're up there. Those of you that understand me, listen, shout out. Because I don't know how else to break it down. There's probably somebody else that could speak on these topics and, speak on it a little better. But me, I feel as though I have to dumbify it down for the ones that don't understand. And I'm not judging nobody. Once again, it's just that sometimes it's the way we speak. Welcome to the hood. But it's just crazy. Like, but on some real shit, we're the Flintstones. And the people creating these robots and the people with the money, the ones in the rich neighborhoods and all that, those are the Jetsons. We're the Flintstones trying to make it to the Jetsons. But me personally, I'll stay a Flintstone. Real shit. I'll stay a Flintstone. Back on topic. Let's listen what you got to say.